A judge freezing the Madoff family assets. For more, I'm joined by Dean Curnutt, the president of Macroeconomic Advisors, and Joe Bessiker, founder and president of Emerald Asset Management. Good morning, guys.
Good morning, Alexis.
Good to see you guys. Okay, let's start first of all with the AIG story here. There are a couple of members of the compensation board, 3 members basically, one of which is the head of compensation. A group of pension funds say they want him out. What do you think?
Well, I think the situation has become so politicized at this point that I wouldn't be surprised for the administration to see that to be a necessary step. As difficult as it is to say who's at fault here, I think just with the ouster of Wagner yesterday, you're seeing the dominoes start to fall.
Yeah, I should say his name is James Orr.
Right.
There are 2 other people that they have named.
The one lady's not going to run.
Both of the 2 other people are not going to run for re-election for the board. But what does this say now about the shareholder activism? Because they say, as a part of the bailout, that they should have been consulted as shareholders about executive pay.
Well, we're getting into a slippery slope. The bigger question is who would want to serve on a board right now, especially of any of these companies. Who's, we got a problem. Who's going to want to work for $250,000 and then have all your shares held there? But the bigger question is who's going to be on this board. This guy James Orr, I don't know the whole situation, but I do know Denise Napier. I know who the treasurer of Connecticut, and she's actually a pretty balanced person. So if she thinks that there's an issue here, I think I would listen. I mean, as a treasurer, but I agree with what we were saying. People are just going to want to throw everybody out. I think there'll be a sea change, and but I am more concerned with who are we going to get to replace these people? Who are going to take these type of jobs? Yeah. Who are going to do management and on boards? Yeah. Exactly.
And we should mention that James Orr was the CEO of Unum, and he joined the board back in 2006. All right, let's get to what I think is the most important heated discussion that's making me crazy, and that is small businesses. The administration comes out with this $15 billion plan to get small businesses up and running, the Small Business Initiative, and they're saying it's not going to work. Tell me why.
Well, listen, I left a traditional Wall Street firm a year ago to start a small business, and I'm hiring. So, I think incentives are a critical part to growing small business. I think it's been proven time and time again that private industry is more adept at allocating resources efficiently and taking risks efficiently than is the public sector. So I think the administration's got this challenge where its dialogue with the private markets is run into several stumbling blocks. I think Geithner in trying to sell his PPIP plan, I think that's very tied into things like the AIG situation. So I think.
But the experts are saying, Joe, that this plan is not going to work. Okay, but let's walk through why the experts say it's not going to work.
Same issue. I mean, in a different context. I mean, they want you to give up your shares. All right, they basically want to hold you hostage. It's not entrepreneurial activity. It's not an encouragement of. It's almost punitive.
Okay, when you say they want you to give up their shares, the government.
Oh yeah, they want to bank it. They want to bank your shares. So if you have articles of incorporation, you have shares. They want to say, okay, well here we're going to help you, but here I want you to sign over your shares, and if you do a good job, we might give those back to you. Well, who's going to sign up for that?
Nobody.
I'd like to know.
This has me outraged. I can't even.
Well,
I can't even speak.
How many of these people have run a small business? Is what I want to know. Has Tim Geithner ever run a small business? Has President Obama ever run a small business? I mean, you got to have some people in there that have done that. And I'm a small cap growth manager. Okay, we manage money differently. I'm just using this as an example. Small cap growth is much different than large cap. Okay, same with business. I mean, somebody that runs a big business has a whole different set of issues than somebody that runs a small business. And so that you can't use the same rules that apply to these big businesses with small business. You're not going to have the proper incentives. I think they'll get it right. It's one of these things, they rushed it out. There was an outrage.
But apparently they rushed it out. Here's the thing. I mean, we got to go to break, but apparently they rushed it out. All the experts told the administration this plan is not going to work in its current form, and they still went ahead with it.
I got one, 35 seconds.
I got to go to break.
Okay,
We'll talk more. I promise.
Right.
I promise.
Right.
Okay.
By Dean Curnutt. He's the president of the Macro Risk Advisors, and of course Fox Business senior economist Mark Lieberman. Guys, when we heard the number, my first response was OMG. I didn't know what you were talking about when you said it was 742,000. What's your reaction?
That is certainly a startling number, made even more so by the fact that ADP has almost historically understated the magnitude of job losses. The other point is this is only private sector, and the Challenger report we got this morning showed that the greatest number of layoffs came in the government sector. That's not even covered by this.
Right. The folks out there should know Challenger during Christmas came out with a report this morning, and job layoffs in March weren't that bad, 150,000 compared to others, but the quarter has been awful, and the government had the largest amount of layoffs. They also had the largest amount of hiring also. Dean, what's your reaction to this? What's the implications of this number?
You know, I think in a market that's been hungry and getting some green shoots recently, this is certainly not one of them. We look at the employment picture as critical to a lot of things, specifically the housing picture and the consumption picture. Magnitude of job losses like this doesn't bode well for consumption.
And you speak of this being critical. Isn't this the most critical number by far, the jobs number on Friday? And we've had over the last 2 weeks economic data that I think, really, to be quite frank, the responses have been sort of dubious. We found silver linings and things where you really needed a microscope.
Yep.
How much more important are the jobs numbers versus everything else?
I mean, we find some of the recent leveling off of economic activity difficult to embrace, given that the jobs market is so fragile. And, you know, nothing will make you spend less than if you or your neighbors lost a job. So we think jobs are critical.
I think Dean is spot on. In one respect, though, the job number we get on Friday, while the employment part is a lagging indicator,
right.
The critical number to look at, I think, in there is the average hourly earnings, because that tells you what people have in their pockets to spend, and if we're a consumption-based society and consumption-based economy, that's critical to our future success and our recovery.
Is there anything else that we should be looking for other than just in the headline number, Dean?
On this particular one?
On Friday. I mean, listen, every day we hear numbers that come out and we find a silver lining in there. What could possibly be a silver lining? You know, coming into the week, I thought if we lost 600,000 jobs, the market would be like, oh, let's pass the pom-poms, all the worst is over.
Right, sure. I think one of the things to look at is revisions. Revisions actually in the last several months have been downward. So to the extent that they revise some of the previous pain upward a little bit, I think maybe the market trades off that. But that being said, the jobs market looks very fragile.
Speaking of that, there was a revision also to the AD.